What a joy. Back in Clarkston with my buddy. You know, and Coach Fife, it's so nice. I finally get to say this. Was state champion head coach, the man, the legend, the myth, Coach Dan Fife. Coach, how are you, friend?
Good, how are you?
It's so good to always get to spend time with you and be with you. And so I have to ask, I come walking into school today. There's no state championship. Hey, home of the state championship. I mean, that was such a major accomplishment. It's like, no big deal. We're Clarkston. We expect to win everything. Where's the banner? Come on, there's got to be something.
Well, I did check on that. I've walked in this gym for 45 or 35 years and never saw the banner of Clarkston basketball, and they're getting it done. I just talked with the rep yesterday about the kind of banner to be the same as the rest of them in the gym, but I can finally walk into the gym and see Clarkston basketball up there, which has been an eyesore for me to never see Clarkston basketball. But here, our kids graduate in 3 days, so all the kids are fired up for for graduation. But I think they just got done with football, all the other state champions, and it was really exciting time when we came back to Clarkston. I mean, they had a small parade for us. Out of nowhere, the town did, and they had it on all the businesses had it in their stores, and it's the reality is you just haven't been around here, Hondo, because Clarkston embraces their program as well as their high school, but I've said so many times I don't think we could be successful in this situation if we didn't have the support of everyone here. It's just there's been an expectation, why haven't we? Mm-hmm. All these years we've had good teams. We seem to lose in the last minute of the game so many times. And we finally got through to one, and I think people, the optimists just had me out speaking to them. But, in some ways, I know my sons went through here. I went through here. I mean, the Fife name, maybe some of the people in Clarkston getting tired of hearing the Fife name. I don't know.
I doubt that's ever going to happen. I think that's a little bit overly modest on your part, Coach. I want to get to one more question about you, and I know you don't like talking about you. And then I want to get to obviously talk Foster Loyer with you. But it has stunned me to talk to so many head coaches around the state, and I've talked to a bunch of them through AAU, through regular high school, all of them. And everyone talked about, man, if I couldn't win it, it was so good to see Dan Fife win it. It's one thing to have respect from the fans of the school where you coach. But when you start getting the respect of the guys you beat, the guys you compete against, that speaks legacy to me. That speaks Hall of Fame. That speaks the elite of the elite when the men you beat say, I'm fans of Dan Fife. What's it mean to earn that respect?
Well, to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is just the way our program, I've always been big on in Clarkston when I was AD, but also, and I had to be that if I was going to be the AD and coach at the same time. Clarkston kids, we're always going to win the right way, and we're going to, just as importantly, lose the right way. We're going to conduct ourselves, we're going to play hard, we're not going to be dirty, we're going to win the right way. And when we lose, we're going to walk over and shake hands and be good in our loss. Understand it, guys, we're going to come after you every time, but when the game's over, we're going to shake hands and act the right way, win or lose. And I think, with our kids, I think over the years we've had kids that's come through the program and maybe wouldn't even be on the teams of others, but they come into ours and they play their role and accept their role the way they are, and they overachieve. And they really they want to, they grow up a lot here in Clarkston because we're a one school community playing in our Saturday program and get to know our players and want to grow up to be our players. So a lot of it's just, it's the program from day one when they come up and start playing basketball, that they come in on Saturday after they've been to a Friday night game here and seen their kids lose or win, and then they're back the next day. They represent themselves well. They, get to know the kids' name, have fun with the kids. And then the kids come to the next Friday, hey, I want to be like Foster Loyer or C.J. Robinson or Tristan Meiser Curry, any other kids. Gosh, they see them on Saturday and see they're good kids. Mm-hmm. And the parents see that. Who they are is, they're gentlemen, they're dressed right, they're not looking like slob, and they're just, it's just really, so much is a part of our community. It's just a one school community, and we are maybe they're proud of what we've done here in our academics, of who we are as everything. Our students, our teachers do a good job. It's just a great community, honestly, to raise kids and be involved with. I don't think for a second, if I'm getting on a kid in the high school in basketball about their effort in basketball, that they're not doing the same in the classroom, and the classroom teacher can come to me, or I can go to her. What's he doing in the math class? He's messing around. Oh, well, I can handle that for you. That's the kind of relationship we have. And as far as the other coaches, I like to go in a game where the coach has his kids play just as hard as our kids and act the right way during the game. I mean, they compete like crazy. When the game's over, it's shake hands. It's the spirit of the rules, and it's the spirit of the game, the way the game should be played, hard and tough. When the game's over, let's shake hands. And I was raised, me and Dane argue with this sometimes.
Wait, Dane argues with somebody?
Dane and I argue a lot. I mean, when I grew up, you never fraternized with the other team, and I said, Dane, my gosh, you go up to these coaches and you talk to them when you're recruiting. I said, I just always kind of stay to myself. If they want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to them, but I don't go up and start a conversation. And yet I'm doing more of it because I've seen Dane do it. Not that I'm stuck up or anything. I always worry about Clarkston, my kids,
right,
and my program. I figure I've got to make sure our kids are doing it the right way. And so I don't mean to be aloof from any of the coaches, but I enjoy playing against coaches that have their kids play the same way that I expect our kids. And that's maybe not fair, but I mean, we had rivalries with Pontiac Northern forever. It was always the last game of the season. We beat them when they won the state championship. And God, we have a great relationship. When that game's over, I mean, you talk about race issues, none. Never. It was always totally respectful. I always thought sometimes people out here in the public need to come and watch this game and see these kids play, and the intensity and the last second shots. And then at the end of the game, these kids are lined up, shaking hands and acting the right way.
That's awesome. I want to get into Foster because I sat here with you a year ago and we talked about his ceiling. I'll be honest, I expected him to improve. I didn't expect him to improve as much as he did just in the year. And you still have another year with him. And I think one thing is sticking out with Foster, and you know this, we're good enough friends. If I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. He's a great basketball player. You can see him shoot. You can see him pass. Those are all things he does. His intangibles, the things that don't show up on a stat sheet, are off the chart with him. Am I reading him wrong, Coach?
Not at all. When his presence on the floor is such a calming influence to every one of our players. I mean, they oftentimes we break the huddle, he gets them back together, and he might explain me or explain the situation or just explain what's going on in the game. Guys, it's time. It's we got to get those loose rebounds. I mean, he can say things differently to those kids than I can. I'm pretty sure he's the one that got him breaking the huddle, putting their hands together and saying family. And I think he really seizes at that because I didn't invent that. He did. I'm almost positive he's the one that brought that. He's got it on the back of their shirts now. And I think, for a team to look at it like it's a family, you get an argument with your brother and sister or whatever, but it's a good argument. At the end, you're still with each other and you're all for the right reasons. But those tournament games, that finals, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that he wasn't nervous. And yet, if he was, I sure as devil couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And with him not being nervous, made everybody else comfort. I mean, and they seemed to play to try and match his intensity in that game, the reality of the atmosphere of the game. They seemed to all they made plays, intangible plays, the hustle plays, and it seemed like in my own mind that we were getting a lot of loose balls. We were covering when a guy was going to save a ball. We were there to protect him to make sure they could get if he was going to fall. Foster made a play in the first half where he caught a ball on the sideline with his left hand. He was going out of bounds, and CJ was coming up to the floor yelling at him, and Foster was able to get it to him. And so oftentimes that doesn't happen with today's kids.
Because they don't communicate.
No, they don't. Oh gosh, it's like pulling teeth to get him to talk. But the fact that he was catching up to the ball. And at the shot at the end of the half, that play that CJ made was just another intangible play. And then Foster, at the end of the game, he dove at a kid, missed it, but the kid missed the layup, and then the kid missed 2 free throws, right? Maybe a minute to go in the game, the kid missed 2 free throws. But I thought him diving at that ball, the kid was aware of it. And I don't think the kid totally concentrated on it. I may be wrong, but it just seemed like another hustle play where it made an impact on that kid in his shot. He might have taken his eye out just a second to see Foster miss the layup. Because it was kind of, I forget who it was, but it's irrelevant that the fact that the game, Foster's diving after a dribbling ball with a kid way ahead of him, just trying to deflect it so the kid doesn't get a shot. He does that stuff in practice. I'm going, my gosh, Foster, don't hurt yourself in practice time for a loose ball. But he has a tremendous passion for the game, and he loves to practice.
Right.
And he loves to work on his weaknesses. And if somebody tells him he can, it's incredible.
I asked him about diving for balls in practice, and he said that he can't do it any other way because how he practices is how he plays. Man, and he told me that just before his junior year. That's basketball IQ, coach. That, no offense to you, and I think you're a Hall of Fame great coach, but that doesn't come from coaching. That's
Amen.
Just instinct. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. You're right. That's what I'm trying to I'm trying to convince. That kid generally loves the game.
Right.
He loves the game. It's inside. When you get that from a kid, it makes your job so much easier. I'm not coaching effort with Foster. I'm just saying, Foster, what are you thinking? Right. So we're thinking together. I mean, I very seldom I don't recall ever raising my voice to Foster except, something, maybe because he can't hear me or something like, what are you doing, Foster? But it's so much easier to coach a kid that you don't have to worry about that stuff. You know exactly who he is all the time because he plays that way every day. You never question his work ethic. You never question, his decision if he's made a mistake or he's not guarding. There's a reason why he may not be guarding. He may be seeing something different on the floor, so you can talk to him about it. I don't know how many coaches have that kind of relationship with a player. With Dane, sometimes I have a pretty good relationship, but if I ask him a question, I got it, don't worry, Dad. Okay, don't worry. At least tell me.
Right.
Foster, I can ask him, and he tells me. It's pretty good. I mean, there's very, very few kids playing high school ball has what he has.
Yep, I
haven't seen very many have that kind of impact on the game with his basketball stuff, but impact on the game with what the other team sees and what our own players see. I mean, that other team, after he starts coming down shooting those threes, at the first half, it seemed, whoa.
I have just a couple more questions, but 3 of them specifically about Foster, then one that has nothing to do with Foster. But in that game, he comes out in the championship game, and my son looks at me, and I'm not obviously a kid, but he used this word chill. He says, Dad, he's just so chill, so relaxed. After the game, I'm walking down to interview you guys, and a guy stops me in the stands. He says, hey, Hondo, is he arrogant? He just looks, and I said, no, you don't understand. There's no arrogance. He's just not overwhelmed by the moment. Am I right or wrong?
Totally. That's what I was trying to say earlier. He was so comfortable.
Right.
And I know I'd have been a bundle of nerves. I'd have been up all night thinking about that thing. And maybe he is, I don't know. But when he comes in to play the game, he's totally in control of himself and his mind. He just...
Wow. Good coaching.
Yeah. I think Dad and Mom had a lot to do with that. But he's unique.
That's special.
It's unusual. I haven't seen anyone with that kind of demeanor and that kind of skill set and that kind of he's competing it's a toughness. He's tough out there, but he's still calm. He's not mad.
Right.
The only time he ever gets mad is if he's mad himself, and then he has the ability to correct it. He trusts himself.
I'm going to put this in perspective, and I know you weren't close to him, but I've been asked by people, who does Foster remind you of? And he reminds me a lot of Drew Neitzel. Yeah. He's a hard worker, great shooter, great passer, great leader. I know you didn't have as much exposure to Drew, so maybe you can't equate it to. Is there someone else that you could, if you didn't know Drew, that you could equate his style to? Because I think he's really in his own, but if I had to equate him to someone, it would be Drew.
Well, no, I'm not. We played Drew when he was a senior, and he dominated us up at Breslin. I didn't see enough of Drew to know that he could have the impact on the game now, and it might be totally
right.
But Foster to me, Foster has an impact on the game in all facets of the game. The mental part, the off the ball defense, on the ball defense, what's going on with the ball, how the cutter's cutting, who to pass to, who he can pass to, where to pass to him at. He got a lot of exposure about the pass he made, a great pass he made to Curry. That didn't shock me at all. It never, I've seen him do it before. And very few high school kids could see that. I wouldn't say, it's hard to say Magic Johnson, but he doesn't have to. I think Magic has that awareness of him. He didn't have to necessarily stare at the kid. He knew where the kid's at, and he could see.
If you watch him very much, you'll see passes where you think that was no look. How did he see it? I agree with you. I think that's
what I don't. I just haven't seen very many players like that have that feeling of the game and where the kid's at, and where if the fine line getting the ball in there and where he's got to do it to get it and where he's got to dribble to get that pass there. That's what I see in him. I just haven't ever seen, he's not Magic Johnson, but Magic had that same kind of confidence coming into the game that he's in control, guys. You just play.
Is it fair? One thing that baffles me about him is most guys who are as good of a shooter as him don't look to pass. And what's phenomenal to me is as good as he shoots, and he's going to get his points, he looks to pass first. He's a point guard first.
Yep.
But if you're not open, okay, I'll take the shot. It's weird for me because most guys who can shoot like him, you move to shooting guard because they won't pass.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong?
No, he can play. He can play. When talking about Michigan State and Cassius there, and people have said to me, "Well, Cassius is there." I said, really, Cassius. We played against Cassius. I've watched him. He's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
But Foster's going to play.
Yep.
He'll play. He can play the two. It doesn't bother Foster, and I think Cassius. That wouldn't bother Cassius either. The two of them could play together pretty good together,
Yep.
I would think, because they'd make each other better.
Yep.
And Foster's completely comfortable without the ball or with the ball. But he's not out there to, he doesn't have to score 20 a game to feel comfortable. He's out there to win the game in whatever way, and he can win it for you by passing, or he can win it on defense, but he can win it shooting because he can shoot the ball.
Two more questions will be done. The last one on Foster. Tom Izzo is famous for saying, when your star player is your hardest worker, it makes coaching easy because he sets the standard how everyone else is going to practice, how everyone else is going to behave, how everyone else is going to perform. That's Miles Bridges with Izzo, and he said that. And he said it right in front of his team, and he's not ashamed to say it. That's Foster Loyer with Clarkston and probably just about any team he's on. Am I fair?
Totally fair. He's that person. You never have to question Foster and his work ethic. He shows you who he is every day. Every day he shows you. If he's up there in a shooting drill, he shoots it. If he's in, coming up from class after school's out, coming up there, to the gym, and guys are talking about their girlfriends or what happened in this class or that class. Once it starts, Foster's boom, he's in, and he comes out with the same focus every day. I always talk about that with our kids, guys, even in my, our Saturday program. People make judgments on you every day, who you are, how you walk into that gym, how they treat your kids, and I do the same thing in practice. I watch. I look, for the hustle play. You have to play hard to be good. Mm-hmm. And that's what I watch for kids. I just read this thing in Sports Illustrated about them, charting deflections and charges and all that stuff. But Foster, I've had him for 3 years going on a fourth. I've watched him knowing this summer. I asked Foster, I was gone as soon as over spring break, Foster, the kid shooting, well, this, that, and the other. I said, Foster, look, I'm not worried about you and Dylan. I'm worried about those other kids shooting. Coach, they're shooting. I'll see to it. He'll take care of it. I mean,
it's an assistant coach on the court.
By far, I could pay him as an assistant coach. He's worth that much. He's going to be hard. You have a kid like Foster, they don't come around very often, and he's going to be extremely hard to replace. But just as important, he's an outstanding representative for people to watch. Our kids watch. The kids, young kids in Clarkston watch.
I love that my son looks up to him. Because
Yes.
I don't worry about Foster Loyer getting busted for drugs. I don't worry about him robbing someplace. And he's a great student. To me, as a dad, I'm like, whew, I'm glad he picked Foster Loyer.
I know. You could go into the lunchroom. You would never know who he is. In the hallway,
I have a niece that goes here. I know that's true.
he's just as laid back as can be. I mean, he doesn't, he gets a lot of attention, but I mean, you wouldn't know it in the school. You wouldn't know it in the lunchroom. He never does anything to draw attention to himself, any negative attention. He's a special kid. I honestly, I think he's as good a kid or a better kid than he is player.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I got
That's-
Sven.
He's just that good. I mean, and that's his mother and dad. I see their other two kids, same thing. Just a good family.
Good parenting.
Yes.
All right, last question that has nothing to do with Foster. But I want to go back because you've impacted Spartan football in a big way. You know, and that's long time ago, Cole Chewins, who's now emerged as one of the best left tackles in the Big Ten. I mean, that kid is on the verge of stardom. He's going to come into the season as a starting left tackle. That's his job. The last 3 games of last year, especially the last 2, he was one of the top 2 left tackles in the Big Ten. This kid's really emerged into a star. But I want you to go back and tell everyone the story when D'Antonio first stopped in here to see him. First visit ever, and was thinking, maybe a tight end. Tell him all about that.
Well, I kept talking to Coach Richardson about him, and he played basketball for me, and I just thought that his strength was going to be a tackle, and he didn't start for us in basketball, but he knew every play that we ever put in. He knew where everybody was supposed to go and everybody was supposed to be, and I knew he was the same way in football. Talking with our football coach, and I with his size, with the size of his dad, and his work ethic, his intelligence. I just told once when D'Antonio was here, I said, listen, he's not going to be a tight end. He's going to be a tackle. That's what a lot of people recruiting him as tight end. I just thought he had a better chance to be a tackle. He's going to have great feet. He's long, he's tough, and he's smart. And I didn't think his hands was good enough, if you had a knock on him, to be a tackle or a tight end. So I thought his better position would be a tackle. In fact, way back when he was a sophomore, I told him he was going to be in the NFL someday, because I honestly believe that, because I knew he played football and loved football. I just thought with his size and all the intangibles he had, he was someday going to be a great player.
When I see Cole later this year, I'm gonna give him this audio, and then I'm gonna get a response from him, and I'll send it to you.
He'll get on me about his hands, but but I just thought, he's a lot like Foster.
Well, I think go really talk about that. Why is that?
He's just when he talks, kids listen, and he doesn't. He's not a bragger. He's not any of that. His action, his body, everything about him tells you who he is. You know exactly who he is. He's that kind of person. And he's got a tremendous work ethic, and he's smart enough to figure out what he's got to do to play and what he's got to do to help the other kid on the line or anybody else.
The thing I like about Cole is he's good enough to know it, but he's smart enough not to brag about it.
Not to show it.
Yeah.
That's a true statement. Very, very true.
So now Coach Dan Fife, Michigan alum, has impacted Spartan basketball and football. I think you should become an honorary Spartan S varsity club member with all that you've done.
I'm getting close. I talked to Dugan, because Harbaugh came before Cole graduated. I said, Dugan, you got to talk to Harbaugh or whoever there. This kid is going to be. I said, the State's in. I don't know who else recruiting, but State's in here. So anyway, it worked out for the best, because Cole is the fact that Dane's there at Michigan State. I've bought into State. I have to. That's my
Well, you're a
son.
lot like Izzo too, though.
I don't know. Well,
Yeah, you don't even try to pretend. No, you are a lot like Izzo. You are a very demanding coach. You know exactly what you want. You're not a game player. I mean, there's a lot of there are differences besides about 9 inches, but you guys are very similar in style. And I think that's how you have to be a championship coach. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. He's won more championships than me, but all I know is I knew him at a young age because he recruited Dugan. And then with Dane, I went through that with him, and I know he's a hard worker. And I know he gives himself outside of just coaching. He gives so much to other people. I've seen him on TV with the education thing and just what he does, and Dane tells me some of the things he goes. Dane says sometimes he has a hard time saying no because he's so good for other people, the other people outside of where he's, the Michigan State basketball team, but the Michigan State people. And the fact that Dane we were just up in Ann Arbor the other day, and Dane's with his nieces and talking to him. Look, you can root for me. I'm Michigan. I mean, they're all
Right.
Michigan, and
Which makes sense.
Their mom, their dad, both went to Michigan, and everything's blue. But he says, if we're playing, I always want you to do well. But I always got one. As long as I'm with Michigan State, I always want Michigan State to win. That's my loyalty, and you should be as loyal to me. If we're playing somebody else, you should be rooting for Michigan State. But when we play Michigan, then you got to root for who you want to. But you want your uncle to do well for whatever it is. He's trying to, coax him into giving a little bit of slack. That's so
Dane, isn't it?
Giving a little bit of slack to Michigan State. But I have to change the way I was before. But, Dane's in there. Michigan State treat Dane well. They're good people to my son, and they're paying Dane.
They love your son.
And in that, I'm pulling for him, as Michigan as I was, and until, like I told you before, when Dane was at Indiana, I sat around the Indiana bench at Michigan and rooted for Dane. I can't help it. You know that.
Yep.
The blood's thicker than all that. So
It has to be.
And so I'm for Michigan, and I know Michigan football or state football. If they're doing well, it helps Michigan basketball. It helps them or state basketball. It helps them recruiting. For all that, it's just like Clarkson. If football does well, they all work together.
Winning's contagious, and
Yes.
so is losing.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, my friend, I'm so proud of you. Last comment. Blair, Dane's wife, okay? Is there going to be like a saintly crown for her when she dies for having to be married to Dane?
Oh, well, if it started with us, and Jan and I, my wife and I, didn't get crowns for raising him. So she may have to work a little bit harder, but he's a different guy. But if Dane's got something to say, he says it. He doesn't mix words.
I love that about him.
Me too. He doesn't. Dad, relax. Okay, Dane.
But I'm going to tell you one thing, and you didn't get to see this at your state championship game. He was so nervous. He was walking around. I've never seen him at a Final Four that upset. That he was so nervous for you. It was beyond. At one point, the person sitting next to me goes, "Man, I wonder if Fife is sick. Look at him. I've never seen him that jittery." I said, "It's his dad, idiot." And they're like, "I didn't even think about that. You think he's nervous for his dad?" I said, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's driving him crazy." So
you ought to see him talking to our players. But Dane, he loves Clarkson basketball.
Yep.
He just loves it. He comes back here and talks to our young kids. Sometimes the little kids in the camp in the summers. He loves Clarkson, but he loves Clarkston.
what's his home?
He's loyal.
That's you.
Dane is as loyal as can be.
Love it. Coach, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And again, congratulations. I'm so proud for you. You're one of the good guys, and that's what makes it fun with you.
Well, thank you. I enjoy what I do.
Well,
Enjoy what I do and enjoy good relations with good people.
the kids are lucky to have you.
Well, thank you.